My phone buzzed while I was halfway through dinner. The notification alone made my chest tighten. "We need to talk," it said. Simple words, yet the weight behind them crushed me in ways I hadn't prepared for. The sender was my wife. The message continued, "I've messed up and don't know how to explain." I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity, every possible scenario flashing through my mind. Was it serious? Was this about us? Or worse, someone else? I didn't reply immediately. That would have been the wrong move. Panic rarely solves anything, and I had learned long ago that composure is a weapon sharper than anger. I poured myself a glass of water, let it sit untouched, and leaned back in my chair. My mind went over every interaction from the past few weeks, searching for signs I might have missed. Late nights at work, the quiet tension at breakfast, the phone that always seemed to vibrate when I was nearby but never in my presence. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, just stress, just life, just the invisible cracks that sometimes appear in a marriage. But deep down I knew better. When she walked in that evening, I didn't greet her with the usual warmth. Instead, I sat silently, studying her every movement. Her shoulders were stiff, her eyes darted too quickly, and her smile didn't reach the corners of her mouth. The words she was about to say hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. And in that silence I realized one thing. Whatever she was about to reveal, it would change everything. I waited. And when she finally spoke, her voice trembled just enough to betray the rehearsed calm she tried to maintain. "I've made a mistake," she began, each word slicing through the quiet like glass. "I don't know how to explain. I don't even know if you'll ever forgive me." I didn't speak. Words would have been futile, and reaction too raw could have ruined the truth I needed to uncover. I simply watched her, every micro-expression, every hesitation, every slight tremor in her hands. The confession hung between us, a fragile thread that could snap at any moment. "Tell me everything," I finally said, my voice calm but steady, carrying the weight of someone who had learned patience through years of endurance. She sank into the couch, hands twisting in her lap, eyes fixed somewhere beyond me. "It started months ago," she whispered. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't know how to stop it. And now, I can't even face you." Her gaze finally met mine, desperate, pleading, but there was no mask strong enough to hide the guilt that radiated off her in waves. I leaned back, letting the silence stretch, letting her own words sink into her like stones in water. Every detail mattered, the time, the lies, the excuses. I wasn't angry yet, not in the explosive way she feared. Instead, I cataloged it all in my mind. The late nights, the phone she never left unattended, the perfume I hadn't recognized until it lingered on her coat. Each fragment was a piece of a puzzle she hadn't realized I was already completing. Then came the most damning part. She admitted it without prompting, as though admitting it would somehow relieve her of guilt. "It wasn't just one thing, it was him," she said, voice barely audible. My stomach turned, but my face remained neutral. I had learned long ago that revelation often carries more power than confrontation. In that moment, she became her own confessor, her own undoing, and I, still calm, still collected, prepared to navigate the storm she had created. And as she spoke, I knew that tonight would mark the beginning of a reckoning. Not loud, not messy, but precise, deliberate, and inescapable. Truth, when wielded correctly, has a way of revealing itself like a scalpel, and I intended to let it cut clean. I finally stood, closing the small distance between us without a word. Her eyes widened, searching mine for anger, for tears, for anything, but I offered none. Instead, I let her hear what I didn't say. Silence can be louder than any outburst. "Why now?" I asked quietly. Not accusatory, just measured, letting her feel the weight of the moment. She shook her head, unable to meet me, knowing the moment she had tried to avoid had finally arrived. I don't know," she murmured. And in that one line, the truth crystallized. Fear, regret, and the full awareness of consequences had finally replaced the arrogance that had carried her this far. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I cataloged everything she admitted, every hesitation, every omission, every misstep. This was the reality she had built, a fragile house of cards, and I was not about to demolish it with fury. I simply let it stand, and collapse under its own weight. By the end of the night, she understood that her words had power, but truth had more. And I, calm, resolute, and finally seeing clearly, knew that some mistakes leave marks that no apology can erase. Because justice doesn't scream. Justice waits. And tonight it had arrived.